Hi, this is Michelle Booth, founder of Make Mementos. Today I have the pleasure of talking with Mark Loewen, licensed professional counselor and the author of What Does a Princess Really Look Like? One of the keepsake ebooks available at makemementos.com. Mark has a lot of food for thought and tips for parents on how to raise brave girls. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you're the first to know about our latest author interviews, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Enjoy the video. You have a website, marklowenauthor.com, and on that website is this story about your daughter, and you were playing with her and you were the patient, she was the doctor, and she told you, don't be scared, be brave like a girl. So I just love that story. So just talk about that.
It was yes, it was funny because the Like a Girl commercials, I don't remember if it's Nike or one of them, right? Like Run Like a Girl. And so um she didn't know about this. She was 3 years old. And we were playing doctor, and so she said, I'm gonna give you a shot. I was like, oh no. And she was about to, and she said, oh no, it's okay. Be brave, like a girl. She really kind of believed that was a girl trait,
And that's
specific to
awesome.
girls.
Where did that come from, do you think?
Uh, well, that's a good question. I would say I didn't know, right? But I think that she must have absorbed that from her environment at that time. I don't want to say that's her parents, but
Yeah. Um,
but
so when we talked, we were prepping for this conversation a few weeks ago, and we talked about we really wanted to start with the idea of girls being brave. And I
mhm.
said, okay, so the topic should be, um, raising your daughter to be brave. And you had just the slightest nuance. And you said, rather than raising your daughter to be brave, let's talk about raising brave daughters. And that's such
Mhm.
a small switch, but it's so powerful and meaningful. So tell me about
Oh,
that.
yeah. It's been an interesting journey for me because, for better or for worse, right? I got into reading more about, uh, learning more about the experiences of girls and later, women, because I became a dad. And it's kind of like that. Oh, really? You didn't, like, you were unaware until finally it hit your own family, and then now which maybe is true to But at the same time, when we adopted our daughter, she I started reading more about specifically raising girls, and I was already a play therapist, so I was already working with children a lot. I was creating stories and doing all kinds of activities with children during the day at my job. But it was then that I started just really learning a little more about and reading about what's best for girls. And I think knowing that you're a dad, we are a two dad family, and feeling like, okay, society tells us there has to be a mom because she needs to learn how to be a girl. Well, what does that mean, right? What is a girl like? And so that's how we that's how I got into more the topic, and then eventually talking about it. But as I do, I just always want to make sure that it's not like, number one, me as a male coming in and saying this is what girls need, right? And number two, we're not necessarily like creating a brave child. She is who she is, and she grows into who she is, and we're just here to guide her and support her, and give her kind of what she needs. And there are specific things that parents can do to help develop, to help their children along in their development. But it's important to me that we know, like, that whether our child, is successful or not successful, is not the parents' accomplishment, if that makes sense.
It does, yes. Yes. What are some of the things you mentioned? There's some things, specific things parents can do. What are some of those things?
Yeah, I think that, and let's. So we're thinking about how to raise a child that's brave, confident, right? So to develop the confidence, because what is important to remember is that we came from this place where we've learned, oh, we're seeing that girls maybe are, more scared, right? So if you think of very stereotypically, right, there's a classroom and there's a spider, and and the girls are yelling and screaming on their chairs or whatever the exaggerated way to describe this is, and there comes some sort of like the bad boy that goes and grabs, and he's not scared of anything, and he takes the frog or the bug or whatever out. And so we see that that was the case, and we want to empower, and so then we start empowering. And what happened is that we started saying, hey, girls can you can do anything. And then in some way, when girls and women receive the message, you have to be everything. So at some point, right, like now it's not okay enough for her to be, whatever, she has to be Wonder Woman. She has to be. So now, because we want her to be strong. We want all these good things for her. Sometimes there's that pressure, and now you have to be everything, right? So um, again, I don't want to speak to the experiences of women, but in, that kind of that, a lot of people saying, I have to be the perfect mom, and I have to be perfect mom. I have to work out regularly. I have to have the full professional life. I have to, have time for my art, and I have to look good doing all of this, and it has to look like I just woke up like this and it's easy. And that's a lot of pressure. So I think one thing bringing this back to what can parents do then to, I kind of start at, this is the challenge, this is where we don't want to go, what can we do? And one of those is actually counterintuitive, is to ease up on some of the brave girl, strong girl power talk. And remember that she we don't want to pressure. Now, you have to,
Which
in
seems
the when I'm
counterintuitive.
what was that?
It seems counterintuitive because that is what we're supposed to, you're brave, you can do this, you can do anything, and you're suggesting let's back off that a little bit and not
Right.
put much pressure on the child.
But I'm going to also add something else. So if we just back off, then we just did nothing, right? But something that you see is, when we don't know how to do it, here's what I see in the playground. And I'm not I'm not trying to criticize any parents. We are all doing the best we can. But this child is going, and she tripped, and she got back up, and the parent is behind her, kind of nervous, right? Oh, my kid fell, and says, oh, you're okay. Oh, you're brave. You got up. You're brave. And to the child, it wasn't a challenge.
Mhm.
So we are so much like saying, oh, you are brave, you're strong. And what the research tells us is that we don't gain confidence from being told something, right? So if somebody keeps praising me, that's not going to be the thing that is going to help me along. What's going to really help me is that I have a challenge that is difficult, that I maybe doubt if I can do it, but not too hard, right? Just the right amount. And I go and I make it through, and I come out on the other end. And I'm not saying I succeed. I come out on the other end, and I look back and I say, whoa, I I did that. That is what really gets to, oh, if I could do that, I could do something else. That really convinces me, because if you're just telling me, oh, you're so strong, you're so strong, really, when people don't believe they're strong, they just say, oh, thank you,
Mhm.
right? Or
Just
I don't feel strong. It doesn't. Um, so one of those things is, right, is to focus more on what the experience is that the child has, and help them along in the experience, right? So to be brave, to be confident, gosh, to be strong are not fixed traits. It's not a child. This is what a person is. It's something that is learned, and it's something that we practice. I mean, I know I was, as a little boy, I would have never done a call like this.
Mhm.
And I'm still nervous today, this morning. But I have done calls like this, and they've been okay, and some have not. And so some I didn't do well, and I don't want anybody to see them. But what I didn't want anybody to see them, and I was embarrassed. But also, nothing happened. They went online. Not a lot of people actually did see them because they weren't interesting because I just didn't do well. And and I was okay. I survived, right? So it's not just the knowledge that you can, that what you do, you set your mind to it and then you succeed. It's the knowledge that you can try something, and if you fail, you're okay. And
Mhm.
if you succeed, that's great. Now you know. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I love that. And I agree. Like, it's not, you have this challenge and so you go through it and you're successful every time. I love that you say it doesn't mean you come out on the other end and you do it perfectly and you achieve all that you want to achieve and life is wonderful and perfect. It's that you go through it and you see that you're okay. You can look back and say, I did that, I got through it. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, we think of life as, and as a therapist, now I used to work with children and now I work exclusively with adults. You know, with most people that are adults, we have this feeling that there's going to be this one big thing that's going to make or break us, right? And which is why we put so much energy on like a wedding and on, you know, on certain things. Like one day I'm going to have something and I'm going to be okay. um, and in reality, that's not really, you know, life is much more about the little successes that we have along the way. And if we can, number one, not put that much pressure on that one thing, which we will never reach, by the way, uh, and think of the daily things that we do, and if we feel okay about them, and if we don't, what can we learn from them, right? Actually, I'll give you an example. We just moved to a big city. We just moved to Chicago, and we're using public transit. And we, you know, all new to us. So we have to get to school in the morning. And my daughter was pretty anxious because it's, you know, it's a lot of change. It's a new school, new friends, everything. And now we're taking buses, and she hadn't done before. And we moved here in the middle of winter. And so, you know, and I was unsure. I'm totally directionally challenged. Like I you know, I knew I was going to mess it up. And so I told her, like, we're going to probably mess this up. But, you know, the worst case scenario is we're going to be late to school, and that's going to be fine. And so we took the train, and then the train, we had to take a bus. We take a bus, we go in. Oh, there's the bus. We run out, we take the bus, we get in the bus, and we go. And I feel like, I don't think this is taking us where we need to go. And then the bus stops, and I go to the front. You know, I'm asking the driver, and she says, "Oh, yeah, that was in the other direction. However, this is my stop here, and I wait for 5 minutes, and then I turn around. And so if you want to just stay with me, then you know you're going." That was fine. So I go and we sit down and we wait, and then they turn around and we go and we get to school. Weren't even late, and so that was a failure, right? So I felt bad. Oh, you know, and not just for doing it wrong, but you know, doing it wrong in front of her, and she's anxious about it. But what we did learn was that that bus stops on that other corner, and we can take another bus that takes us there. And in the winter, and we don't want to wait outside for the next bus. The thing we can do is we can take this other bus to where this bus right hangs out, and we can wait and those 5 minutes in the bus. And so then we did that for a while. And so it's a mistake that, you know, I think that's a rewording of when is somebody successful or not, because we were successful at finding a new way.
Right. Yeah. I love that.
And
That's
that
so
means next
true.
time when we get in the bus and we're unsure, we know we're going to figure something out, right? And so that's kind of a little more of what confidence is. A brave person is not fearless. A fearless person, you know, I mean, in general, if a kid is too fearless, they're brought to therapy, right? They get hurt too much. They have impulse control. They go too far. Fearless is not always great. Brave is somebody that knows this is dangerous or this is tricky, and I'm a little nervous, but I think I got it, or I'm gonna try it. And I go and I do something that I'm not so sure that I'm that great at, and then I come out on the other end in some way and move forward in some way, whether I succeed or not in the eyes of other people or my own. So yeah.
So how old was your daughter when you adopted her?
She was adopted at birth.
At birth, okay.
Yes.
So when did you adopted her, and then you've written this fantastic book, What Does a Princess Really Look Like? So I think your daughter was the inspiration for that book.
She was, yes. It kind of started with that, Brave Like a Girl, which is the series of the book started being, the name is Brave Like a Girl. Um, and yes, what happened was that we were in the playground, and she said she wanted to play Princess and Knight. So I said, okay, like, how do we play this? And she said, oh, you're gonna be the knight, and you're gonna fight down there, and I'm gonna be up here. And I said, well, what are you gonna do up there? And she said, I'm gonna be beautiful. And I was kind of like surprised. I felt, and this time I was like, this definitely doesn't come from us. And so, but because she wanted to play it, I said, okay. So I fought, and then I asked her, can we take turns? Can you be a knightess, or can you be a princess that fights? And I will be up there, and I will look beautiful. She did not think that was weird. She said, oh, of course, why not? And we did that, and she loved the fighting, and she did that much longer. And I realized kind of that she picked that role because she thought that was her role to take, and not because it was the role she wanted. So another day, she asked me to draw a princess, and I started drawing a princess for her and described, beautiful hair, beautiful. And I was like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Like, why am I doing this? And so we instead went down and created a princess, where the crown means that she has a lot of responsibility, and trying to think what else it is. The eyes means that she sees needs that people have, that she can, help out. The mouth means she has to speak up when something's wrong. The shoulders are about being strong. About being, and so it goes like a body in a positive body positivity kind of way down the body of what the body does, and not just the way it looks or what it means to others, but how it actually helps the person.
Because I think that is certainly the message that young girls all the way up to adult women, it's all about looking a certain way. And if you don't look this way, then you're not successful. You just have this mold that you have to fit into. And so I love that your book is showing that it's not about how you look. It's about, we have these strong bodies that can carry us, and we have these brains that can think wonderful things and imagination and learn things, and like you said, eyes for seeing people that need help, and hands to do the work to help those people. So I just think all the messages that you've got in this book are so needed for young girls.
Thank you. She actually, by the way, she also has a challenge, something she's working on, and at the end of the book, she thinks she failed, and she didn't want anybody to know. And turns out that, I don't want to give the book away, the story away, but it turns out that she realizes that the princess that she created was based on who she is and not who she should be, I guess, for other people.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
So are you seeing, and you said you worked with young children before, and now you work with adults, but that when you were working with children, in addition to being a father, is it prevalent among young kids that they're learning boys are strong and brave and girls are pretty? Like, is that, what you're seeing?
I think that as a society in general, we're doing the best we can to change this narrative, right? And we are having more stories of girls that don't fit certain stereotypes, and we're having better representation. And I think that we're going in a certain direction, but it is a multi-level, it is an onion. So there's definitely the layer not only of girls maybe being put in a role where kind of like the boy is strong or the girl, but also where we actually judge certain things as weak and strong. Right, so being artsy, or in the end valuing beauty, and a girl that likes to sew because she loves making clothes, then we're still kind of like, oh, but I wish that you would want to be an engineer, right? And so we have kind of that problem. We're still judging that also as a negative. And I think that was one thing that came up in the book that we made. Does she have a lot of pink around her, or does she not? Right? Do we still so, oh, this is a strong girl or whatever, or finds her way, but she still likes to wear dresses, and that's not bad. So I think that's where we're struggling to say, okay, we want, like, instead of embracing the full, what am I trying to say? Rainbow, the full
Spectrum?
spectrum, the spectrum. Thank you. Instead of embracing the full spectrum of basically what does the princess really look like? Well, I could say she looks strong and smart and all of those things, right? But also she basically looks however she personally wants to look like, and however she's personally built to look like, right? Some people are better at something and some people are better at the other, and nobody needs to do it all.
Mhm. What are some other things that parents can do? Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
hmm Yeah. So one thing, I think that at the beginning it maybe wasn't as concrete of like what people can do when I described. I think the first thing that we can do is check in with ourselves on and think about, right, how do I think of success and failure, so that when something happens, I can kind of respond in that way. One thing that is the next thing that is really helpful is that we teach our children that confidence and strength, that and really almost nothing is a fixed trait. So there are fixed traits of like, I'm better at something than at something else. So I come with genetics, but most everything can be learned and practiced to the degree that it kind of needs to, right? And so to learn, when we, instead of saying, oh, you're so brave, oh, you're so strong, we can praise the effort that somebody put into. So if, for example, instead of saying, oh, wow, you are such a great mathematician, or you uh, got an ace on the test, or instead of saying, wow, this picture is so beautiful, you're such a good artist, we can praise and say, wow, this was actually really hard, you worked on this for a while, you studied really hard, you really dedicated time to it, you really figured out what colors were good to go together in this, or whatever we can find in praising the effort. Because also then we can praise kids when they have a beautiful picture and when the picture is not so beautiful. But what we're doing a lot is like, oh my god, everything is beautiful, right? And if it's your child, and then the child doesn't, at the end, doesn't know if you just saying that because you're the parent or what. And so you can, when you praise the effort, praise something that they did. um, we had then you can always do that, and you can be really honest with that, and that is really what's going to carry kids further, right? We had a little disagreement the other day, and I hate giving examples of our family because we mess up quite a bit, but we had one moment that I was proud of. We had a disagreement, and our daughter was talking through it, and saying and saying and saying, and she was very disappointed, and So at the end, we're done, and I said, can I give you? I have feedback for you, but it's very positive feedback, and I think it'll be helpful. I think you will like it. At first, she said, no, I don't want to hear it. So that's fine, right? You don't want it? I can give it to you any other time. I think that's when I said, I think you're gonna like it, but it's up to you. So that empowers her, right? Gives her a choice. She said, okay. So I said, I know that this competition was very hard for you, but you talked through it, and you problem solved around it. And even with all the efforts that you put in, you still weren't able to get the thing that you really wanted. And you dealt with it really well. You talked about it. You didn't storm out. You took some breaths. I noticed that you were really trying to make it work. And when you had enough, you said, can we stop? And we took the break. So you did all of those things. I'm really proud of you for like just how you managed that. And in that, I my pride of when I say I'm proud of this moment wasn't because of I did that. It was, parents know this is the result when she just switched, and she was like, oh. And all of a sudden, that conversation that she had with us was not anymore a failure of a conversation where she didn't get what she wanted, but something she did well. So that's the kind of like, praising effort, praising what is happening. This was hard, and you did it.
Yeah. That reminds me of this past December. I had my friend, my very dear friend, she has 3 kids. And I said, bring the kids over. We're going to make Christmas cookies. And so we were doing all that. And there was the cookies were in the oven. So what do we do now? So we were playing a game while the cookies were baking. And they're super competitive. They're 5.5 years old. And, it's occurring to me, all of the things that they're having to learn. They're having to learn how to play this game, but then they're also having to process the emotions of they really want to win and they're not winning.
Right.
So the little girl wasn't winning, and you could just see her whole demeanor changed. She was very tense. She was very just stressed and angry. And I could tell it's something that she and her mom had been working on, because she took a breath. She just stopped a minute and she sort of recovered, like, okay,
yes,
this is a game. I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying my best. And I stopped her and I said, I just want you to know what you just did was really good. You did a really good job just now, because that's really hard. You do want to win, and but you didn't throw a temper tantrum. You didn't get angry. You didn't quit. You just refocused and decided you're going to try your best. And that was huge. It really meant a lot to her. You could tell. She, of course, didn't verbalize, oh, thank you for saying that. But you could tell she kind of calmed down a little bit, and she just felt better. It only happened in an instant, but it just that little thing of, like you said, giving that feedback of, you worked through, adults have a hard time processing emotions like that. And so, at 5 and 6 years old, good grief, that's so much harder. So
I went to the dentist one time, and it was a long procedure, and the dentist kept saying, you're doing so great. And I was like, at what? Laying here? But eventually I was able to ask, oh, what? Right? And she was like, oh, this is not easy. What you're laying there and doing this is not easy. And so even as an adult, when then she kept saying it, and she later told me that, there's lots of people that take breaks and can't get through it. That made me feel good about something that I did, right? So yes, that's such a beautiful example. She felt like she was failing because she wasn't winning. She was only thinking of that one glorious ending when and only one person in that game can get it.
Right.
And so So, oh, you're working so hard, you're thinking so hard of how to catch up. You are probably working the hardest of everybody here because you are behind. Like, I can see you. So I think kind of like being seen and having your efforts seen really, really matters.
Mhm.
The thing is too, like that fear. So there's this other study that says that uh, it's about attribution. I believe it's called attribution, but basic cause or fault attribution. So in general, so when I say this, right, I say the study says, it says in general, not all girls, not all boys, but I guess more than not. So maybe 51% of when something bad happens, girls and women blame themselves, boys and men blame circumstances, right? So if I go and I don't get a job, the guy is like, these guys are crazy not to accept me, and the woman says, oh, I guess I wasn't good enough, and so this is not, we can do all the work that we can do as parents, but we live in a society with tons of images all around us. There's influences from everywhere, and so one thing that parents can do too is that is to help balance that out. So maybe, keep a check on it, because again, not all girls, not all boys, and so, but if you have a boy, you can check on that and see, does he need to take a little responsibility? If you have a girl, to see in this case, for example, that you just said, right? Does she at the end of the game feel like she's not as good as others because she didn't win? Because only one person can win. And so to look at, is it really because of you, or is it circumstances as well? And kind of this thought of being enough. We have the conversation where my daughter might be disappointed that she's maybe not the best drawer in the class, and so somebody else is so good at drawing, and so sometimes we want to be like, no, you are awesome though, I saw this one picture and that was great. And so but the reality is, I don't know if this other girl is better. She might be better, and that's not the case. She does not have to be. So hey, you know what, I'm gonna tell you something I'm not good at, and I'm gonna tell you something that daddy is not good at. And one reason why we're a very good team is because I am, I'm kind of messy, but I can improvise, and I can do stuff like last minute and fix stuff that needs to be fixed. And he's very organized and planned. And so when we have a crisis, I'm stepping in and I'm getting it. But in general, our life is pretty good because it's so organized. And so we have different strengths, and we don't have to have them all. And just because something bad happens doesn't mean I wasn't enough. It just, things happen. So
Yeah.
what are my strengths, and can I use those? If not, if it requires a different strength that I don't have, number one, fixed mindset versus growth, right? I can practice that and get better. I might also get the other person to help me out with it. And so then we're not competing. What we kind of see, what we see, like when people want to pit women against each other. I mean, society wants to do this, right? Who is going to be the one? Like, it doesn't have to be one. We can all be great at different things. And to keep that in perspective in our conversations with our kids can also be very helpful.
What age can parents start building, bringing out the brave in their kids? Like,
Oh, since
age
first
and
first
how
first steps, right? First steps. Um, I mean, of course, the little bit. This is more like for the parent to practice than it actually will help the child, right? But like first steps is and it's not one either or, right? You can say, "Oh my God, you're standing! Yay! You stood up," or "Oh my God, that's so hard! You did it! You did a really difficult thing. That was hard for you, but you did it, right?" Of course, like I said, that child is not going to get anything from it yet, but the parent is already practicing it, and so as they grow, if just keep continuing to practice effort and continuing to see a struggle, right? If I have a hard time and I need support from my friend has nothing to do with the problem that I have. But they can listen and they can say, "Oh yeah, that is really hard. This is really hard. I'd be so frustrated if I was in your shoes." And so we can also do that as our kids struggle with little friendship issues, right? And like fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth. I'm even thinking age 4, age 5, age 6. Um, and just asking, what do you want to do about that? Oh, that's hard. How do you want to handle that? So it sounds like you did something and this worked, or you did something and it didn't work, but now you know that doesn't work. So where do you go next, right? So I think allowing kids to not just have to not just solve the problem for them, but just staying with them, because when they face something difficult, they can, if they can realize they're getting through it, then they'll look back. And if they don't look back, that's when we can go back and see, oh, see what you did. And so I'll tell you one more story. We were riding our bikes in outside in the city, and there were these high steps, and these kids bikes, for the little kids, they're actually really heavy. My bike is super easy, my road bike. So we're trying to get up the steps, and I asked her, I said, there's the ramp over there, we got to go a little further, or there's these stairs, so we can go further or we go harder, shorter. And she always will pick shorter. It's not like long and doing anything that takes long. She said, we're going up the steps. Okay. So I'm next to her, and I go and I said, if you need any help with your bike, I'm right here. And so we start going up, and the rule is, right, don't do anything for your kid that your kid can do by himself. And she's struggling, she's pushing. And so I asked, I said, do you need help, or are you good? And she said, I'm good. Okay. You would not believe the amount of people that passed us and said, does she need help? And I want to know, I can't, because I don't know if this would happen. I don't know if it would happen if there was a boy. I have a feeling people will be like, oh my God, you're so strong, look what you're doing. But not only were they, in their, great intentions, had wanted to help, they also probably, I'm there as a parent, like, I know they're judging me, like, why is this dad not helping his kid? I was actually, at some point, she was like, I want just a little help. I said, okay. So I just put like one finger under on one side, and I'm like doing it because I know and she was going up, she was doing it. And every time, does she need help? And I said, no, she's good. And then I realized, oh, and I said, she's very, I said it's more for her than for them. So now she actually is working really hard, and she's pretty strong. The next person, I said, yeah, she knows that I'm right here for her if she needs me. Okay. And so as we go up, we got there, and she said, oh, right. And I said, ooh, look back. She looked back. I said, that's what you did. And she looked at me and said, huh, I knew I could do it. Right. And so it's that little moment.
Yeah.
It's not the glorious, it's the little moment of, ooh. But really she didn't, right? She says, I knew it. What that told me is she doubted herself. But she had a feeling that maybe she could. And so that to me, that moment of getting up the steps was more valuable than the whole rest of the ride for us, right? But that's the big short moment. Those are the things that make it. So as parents, to kind of just be in the effort and stay with it and not solve it, because I could have easily picked up that bike and taken it up.
I think that's such an important point that you mentioned, though, is I wonder what people's reactions would have been if it was a little boy versus a little girl. Like, that's so true, because we look and we think, oh, the little girl needs help, but the little boy, oh, he's strong, he's trying really hard. And we do, and I don't even think we think about it. It's just automatic.
We don't. It's automatic. Yep. And if you made, when I said, oh, she's really strong, she's doing this, people responded well, right? They're like, oh, wow. And then they realized what was happening, and they weren't so sure when I said, she knows she has her dad right here if she needs him. They were like, oh, like, can't you see that she needs you, right? Like, so they were a little more confused. But yes, we get that. We also go to the grocery store, and she had I want to say it's an Iron Man mask on, and the suit that's all muscular. She's little, like 4. And one person praised her and said, oh, I can see those pretty blue eyes behind that mask. Really? That's what you saw? So I think, yeah, as a society, we're kind of at the doctor's office. we went to the doctor's office, and I come out, we have to come back, and they, we had to get some scheduling done, and it was kind of tricky. And the lady, I mean, I'm not trying to criticize. We're this comes so natural, right? She said, well, you know what? If she, my daughter's right there. If she wears this beautiful dress again, then we can make it fit on Tuesday. I said, oh, and I didn't know what to say because I'm like, oh, Tuesday works. I'm just like, okay, I'm thinking more. I don't need to educate this. I mean, I don't have to educate this person, but my kid just experienced this next to me, right? And I said, oh, but I don't want. But she doesn't get things just because she looks a certain way, and she does not really dress for people like that. And of course, right? I mean, I had to say it for her, but this other person felt terrible. Like, oh my God, of course, yeah, no.
Yeah.
So it's not a confrontation, but I think that kind of trying to notice those things and see what we can say. Sometimes we can say it, and sometimes we just have to address it with our kid, because most times it happens so fast that you don't have good comebacks, and you don't have good things to say in the moment. You realize after, wait a minute, what happened? And then you can sit down. So there's another thing you can do with, then you can sit down and just, I mean, these moments are brief, especially when your kids are small, to say, hey, they said this, and I just want you to know that you don't have to wear anything for anybody. That is something that I disagreed with. That's all, yeah, right? So I think coming back and just recognizing those things are important.
Yeah. So let's jump back to the book. And what do you hope that people get from What Does a Princess Really Look Like? Like, what is your goal for the story?
Yeah, the goal for the book are kind of twofold, because one of the reasons why I wrote the book, or what I wanted to write a book for children, was that in our home, we did not have, again, representation. We did not see books that had two moms or two dads, or had families that were different from the one dad, one mom, right? And even if it's a single parent story, I know single parents struggle with that as well in children's books, but a child can often assume, because the idea that there is a mom and a dad somewhere, they can assume that the other parent wasn't home or whatever. If there is a book with a family that has a mom or a dad. But the books about families that have two dads or two moms are specifically, and this is changing, but they're specifically about their family structure. So they say, this exists, this is good, this is how this family work. And our daughter got to a point where she was like, I don't want to read these books because I feel like I've already read all these books, and I just want to read about kids that do good things. I don't remember exactly how she phrased it, but something like, I want to read about girls that do big things or something. And so, of course, she wants to read about somebody that's like her. And so the book has the representation. So the girl in the book has two dads, but the dads don't play a big role. It does not explain their family structure. It's just what it is. She's just a kid with two dads. And I think that is important for other kids that have two dads or two moms, but it's really important for children who don't even have friends who have two moms or two dads, so that they can see it and be exposed to it. And when they encounter someone, they don't feel like that is a crazy, weird thing, and don't ask too many questions, and they can just kind of step in because they've already seen it, right? So it's a great way for parents to expand their child's concept of diversity and of family. On the other hand, the book teaches that story, right? That it tells that story of a girl that wanted to do something and figured out that even though she wasn't successful in what she wanted to do, it worked out the way it had to, and she's happy with that. And also she learns that the body is, a princess does not have to look a certain way, and the body is more than just the way it looks. It is actually the things that it can do for us, and it empowers the princess to do all the things she needs to do.
So true. So true. So this is the first book in the Brave Like a Girl series. So are you working on your next book, or what are your plans there?
Yeah, at this time, there is not a second book, but there is a coloring book. So the series basically is a series of two books. So it's the main book is What Does a Princess Really Look Like? I think I have it here. Look at that. It showed up behind me. Yeah, this is the book, right? What does a princess really look like? The coloring book I actually don't have with me here. But the coloring book is called The True Colors of a Princess. And so it expands that kids can then, it's not just coloring, it's coloring and some activities. And so it expands those concepts even a little more. So princesses can have all kinds of hair. Princesses can have come from all kinds of places, all different cultures. And so it kind of expands, it definitely expands. Families can look all kinds of ways. It expands the diversity concepts. So that coloring book is called The True Colors of a Princess.
And so you have a website, marklowenauthor.com, Loewen, where people can go and read more about you and the book. And then if they want the print copy of the book, where can they get that? Or the coloring book?
The print copies can be ordered at any bookstore that sells books. Any place that sells books, they can special order it, just like any book, and they can also listen to it, or they can get it through mementos.com, right?
Yeah, so we're so excited to have your book in the Make Mementos library, so people can buy the digital copy and then they can narrate the story for a child that they want to send the book to. So we are just thrilled that you're part of our collection, and we just love the story, like just that. I agree with what you said. Like it at the very beginning, the main character, she has two dads, and it's mentioned, but it's mentioned like it's no big deal, like this is just her family, and then the story goes on from there. It doesn't focus on educating people about what does a family with two dads look like. That's not the focus. The focus is all about this princess and what does that princess look like, and we love this story just because of the message that it teaches, and it's just so needed right now, and that message just needs to get out more. And so yeah, we
Thank
just
you.
that
Thank you. It makes me very excited that Meg Momentous has the book, because it's to think that a grandparent can read the book and record that, and a child, we have grandparents, far away, and so that they can send that, and there can be a good night story that a child can hear by someone that's not close, but they can read it to them, and they can look at the book or look at the ebook. That's really cool. So what does the princess really look like?